what are the real world consequences of, firstly, not securing your connected device? Secondly, not adhering to this new legislation. And thirdly, what's the balance of corporate and consumer risk?
Good questions, and thank you, John, for the preamble into this, because I think in part John's answered some of those areas. The reality of not securing your connected device is, of course, like not locking your front door on your house. You are welcoming in all sorts of bad things, and we all know that the generic internet is, hosting a whole range of malware, and we do see this attacking IoT. The real challenge with that, of course, is that with IoT, with these other connected devices, we're operating in the cyber physical world, so things physically go wrong. A great example of that is the Colonial Pipeline attack over in the US, where it shut down major oil pipelines for a very long time. We have seen test firing of cyber weapons. We're all aware of cyber warfare, which is starting to occur already, and we're only in the foothills of where we could see this. The next war will likely be fought in cyberspace, but the consequences of that will be felt in the physical world, in attacks on critical infrastructure, water, and sewage works, in how people commute, whether it's train, whether it's car, in homes with smart meters. All of these different facets, unfortunately, are subject to attack. We know, for example, a lot of smart meter functionality is not switched on right now because the consequences of a failure of malware being injected would be catastrophic. You could make a whole country go dark if you really had such an advanced persistent threat. So the reality is we have to assume the bad guys, the bad actors, have practically infinite resources. They are often state-sponsored. And we know that they will be able to purchase devices. We know they'll be able to reverse engineer them. So if there is any flaw in your device, the reality is bad guys will be able to find it. And this is obviously very much on the agenda of governments around the world, the EU, the US, really everywhere. So what could go wrong? And the answer is, unfortunately, a lot. But we also have to think slightly broader than that. It's very easy to think very negatively about these areas, so we need to stop, inhibit malware. But we also know with a lot of connected devices and with a lot of the value that people have today, the IP theft is rife. Counterfeiting, cloning, overproduction is a challenge. We know governments are very focused on securing supply chains. We've seen that, very easily on how a lot of silicon infrastructure has been inhibited to being shipped to China. But similarly, every organization needs to be thinking around their supply chain. The final answer of this, and actually to come back to the legislation, the real challenge is life cycle. None of the devices that we ship today is in its final state because we know they'll all be compromised. And a key part of the legislation is now going to be how do we manage the life cycle of those devices? How do we get past compromises? How do we update? How do we patch? Not just computers, which we're all used to, but internet-connected kettles or doors or doorbells or all of these little things which don't necessarily have a big user interface. All of them are compromisable. All of them will have compromises. It's the nature of software. And so we have to do the right things to engender that.